Oh my gosh. When I was a kid and my dream job, I always wanted to be an athlete.
Oh, yeah.
I love football, baseball, basketball, so something in the sports world. And then, of course, after college baseball and all the sports that I played, got into the fun copier world. I did.
Okay.
College baseball at Southern New Hampshire University, which used to be called New Hampshire College.
Okay.
And played 4 years there. Had a great career.
Yeah.
Had some professional opportunities after the independent league. Unfortunately, hurt my knee.
Yeah.
I played with guys all over the country. Amazing ball players, and you have to love it 24/7 to make it. To the show. And, after I got hurt, I decided, hey, I'm done with baseball. And that's when I moved down to Atlanta from Massachusetts after college. Yeah, so very, very tight family.
Yeah.
We're from Long Meadow, Massachusetts, which is about an hour and a half from Boston.
Okay.
It's one of those towns, everybody knows everybody.
Okay.
Everybody's kind of business, but amazing place to grow up. I was the oldest. Of course, I'm 51. And, my sister's 48, my brother's 45. Me and my brother are very tight. 6 years apart. I was always, the big brother, so he would always want to be with us nonstop with me and all my friends. And my sister, again, very close with her, 3 years younger. Mom and dad, the best parents I could possibly have, we could have as a family.
Yep.
They gave us everything. My dad is 77. He just retired, a few years ago from his job. And, we lived a great life, but it was sports nonstop, family, and just a great place to grow up where we came from. Yeah, so, back again, like I said, I'm 51 years old, and I still do look up to my dad.
Yeah.
He was always out hustling, right?
Yep.
He was always in some kind of sales job when he got into the food business. And, I'll never forget, he would always say, be kind, be nice, and show a lot of enthusiasm.
Yep.
And hopefully, I took those traits from him, and that's how I kind of, sell or just act in front of people. I want to make people feel important, and especially in what we do for a living.
Sure.
At the end of the day, our company's AOT, and it's awesome. But they're buying from Jeff Kramer, just like you, Phil, right? We're partners here, and we built something that's great here.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're ultimately buying from me and building that relationship. Business, sports management. That's kind of what I picked, and I knew ultimately, if the sports didn't work out after college, that I would do something in sales. I've been around it my whole life. I love interacting with people, talking to people, learning about them, and ultimately, that's luckily what I chose. And, the best class I did in college was a public speaking class. I would say all the classes, again, we all do that, but if I look at everything, we didn't have a ton of business classes. Back then, we just didn't, but public speaking was great, and it just kind of gets you in front of people, and hey, you're going to screw up, you're going to make mistakes, and then you get comfortable with it, just like riding a bike, right? And ultimately, great 4 years of college there. Yeah, awesome question. So I'm going to tell you about a couple of different jobs. Yeah. The first one was I worked for Crunch Fitness out of college, and I'll never forget. So let me backtrack. So in 1996, when I was done, with college and then with baseball, I'm up in Massachusetts. I don't have any money. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Right? What's the next step? I knew I didn't want to necessarily grow up where I came from, even though I loved it there. I wanted to go somewhere a little warmer. And I had some friends in Marietta, Georgia. And they said, why don't you come check it out? And I did. So literally, I'll never forget, I came in to our family room, my mom and dad. I think it was just us. I'm like, I decided I'm going to go move to Atlanta, Georgia. And they looked at me like, what? This is like a month and a half after college. And they're like, okay. So literally, I got my little Honda Accord, had no money, had my clothes, and I literally got in the car and drove 15 hours to Marietta, Georgia, where my buddy and his wife lived. And I lived on their couch for 2 months. And it was great. So, and I met a bunch of different people. There was a few people from my hometown that I knew that were down here as well, which was nice.
Yep.
And I used to play a lot of competitive tennis as well. So my first job down there, I would teach moms how to play tennis for like a month and a half. And I loved it, and it was great.
Yeah.
And then I saw Crunch, and I did like a week of training, and you'll love this story. And I was doing well, and they said, all right, we're ready to go. And I sold a bunch of memberships the first few weeks. And they said, all right, Jeff, we're going to get you on a regular schedule. But how it works is it's every other weekend. And as soon as I found it out, I said, yeah, this is not the place for me. I'm like, I don't want to work weekends, so I quit.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget, probably a few weeks after that, I was talking to my buddy Jed, and I'm like, man, I need like a real job.
Right.
And literally in the paper was Icon Office Solutions.
Oh, yeah.
And so I sent in my resume, and my whole resume was sports. It was sports, and some jobs that I did. And I'll never forget, it was probably like 11 in the morning that same day I sent it in, and I get a call from this guy named Joe West, who was the head recruiter for Icon.
Wow.
And he calls me up, and he goes, hey, Jeff, this is Joe from Icon. Love your resume. We started talking. He goes, hey, what are the chances you can come in for an interview at 2 p.m.? And I think I was watching Sports Center at the time. I'll never forget. So I'm like, sure, why not? So I call my dad. I have one suit to my name. And I'm like, you ever heard of this company called Icon? He goes, actually, yeah, a buddy in Connecticut works for them. I think he does pretty well. Go check it out.
Okay.
So they're on Peachtree Industrial Boulevard in Norcross, where they were. And I show up, and I got my only suit that I have.
Yeah.
And I get to the main desk, and there's the receptionist, and gives me a name tag, put Jeff Kramer, and I sit down. But there's like 12 other college kids that are just kind of next to me. I'm like, this is kind of weird. Yeah. I thought it was a one-on-one interview. I had no idea. So we're all sitting there, and probably 10, 15 minutes is going by, and Joe West, who called me, he comes out. He goes, hey, everyone, thanks for coming in, blah, blah, blah. And I find out that a lot of these people have had these interviews set up for like a month, and I've had it for like 3 hours, right? So now we go into this huge conference room, and we sit down. I'm kind of sitting in the back. I think there was like 9, I'll never forget, 9 guys, 3 girls in there. And he talks to us about the job. And back then, they were just copiers, right? This is in 97.
Yeah.
And we knew the basics. And he goes, all right, I'm going to give everybody a personality test. We're like, okay. So literally, his assistant comes in the room, passes out this test, and goes, all right, we're going to give you about 15, 20 minutes to fill this out. Great, awesome. So who's the first one done? Me, Jeff Kramer. I'm done in like 8 minutes probably, filling it all out, just sitting there in the back, and everyone else is doing it. He comes back in the room with his assistant. He goes, all right, give us about 10, 15 minutes. We just want to look at some of the answers.
Yeah.
So now I'm in the room with all these kids. I guess we're 22, 23 years old, and we're like, this is the most bizarre interview, but it is what it is. Kind of my first one I really ever had like this. So he comes back in the room after about 15, 20 minutes, and he talks for about 3 minutes. And he goes, okay, we see a lot of great things here. If we're interested, we'll be in touch again. So I'm thinking to myself, this was the biggest waste of time. Okay, great. So now I'm like the 10th person in the back.
Okay.
So Joe is at the main door.
Yep.
And the first person comes, and he shakes his hand. He goes, hey, thank you. And they leave. So the first 9 people, he shakes their hand. He gets to me. He goes, hey, Jeff, can you hold on a second? I'm like, sure. So I move to the side. I'll never forget this. He closes the door, and he looks at me, and he goes, you're exactly what we're looking for. And I start laughing. I'm like, that's awesome. Sounds great. He goes, I want to introduce you to a couple managers, this guy, George and Damien. Great. So literally, we walk into this monster, and this facility is like the Taj Mahal. It's unbelievable. Okay. Unbelievable building. And we walk in, and he introduces me to, George and Damien. He's in there for like a minute, and he closes the door. For the next 40 minutes, we talk about family, life, sports, family, life, sports. Hardly anything to do with the job. And I'll never forget, they both looked at me, they go, how about this? We're going to give you a $32,000 salary, and we're going to teach you the business, and you're going to kill it. I said, done. I started 2 days later, and that's all she wrote. I absolutely do. I'll never forget it. Let me backtrack. So, I got ADHD like most guys. My attention span is not great. So the first 2 weeks we had to do training.
Yeah.
Like you had to physically go at this hotel and learn everything you can know about copiers, okay. Right? And then you had to demo copiers and do all that. And I was absolutely terrible at that. That was not my thing. I can sell and do that. So after like 2 weeks, I'm like, do I really want to do this?
Right.
And then it got to the point I just kind of figured it out. Yep. I watched people that were successful there and kind of picked their brain on how they did certain things. But yes, going back to your first question, my first sale, I think it was literally in my first day that we were at a training, and my manager, Bob, at the time, goes, hey, we got this lead that came in, and nobody can go with me. And it was fine. I'm like, I got it. I'll go myself.
Yeah.
So this little law firm in downtown, I kind of got lost even going there, I remember.
Yep.
Parking was a pain. You had to park and then walk. And I show up, and there's this I forgot the guy's name. I think it was Brett or Brad. And the head attorney, and the guy was probably, at the time, if I was 20, what was I then? I was 23 years old at the time. He was probably late 50s.
Okay.
Right? It was an injury attorney. I can't remember the name of the firm. And he comes out and he sees me, young 23-year-old, and we're just BSing for about 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. Not even, he was just, he was kind of asking me questions. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, maybe he saw that I was a little nervous.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I think this is great. And I was honest with him. I said, here's the deal. This is my first appointment. And he thought this was awesome. And I told him, I'm like, why am I going to lie to him?
Yeah, right.
This is my first meeting. Just got out of training. He goes, Jeff, I need something very basic.
Yep.
I said, great. You just tell me what it is. Well, one thing leads to another. And I'll never forget, in training, one of the top reps that I was talking to said, always make sure you have paperwork. Always make sure. So in my little briefcase, I had a little brochure, and I had paperwork. And, I was always good with numbers. So I said, do you want to lease it or do you want to buy it? Because I want to lease it.
Okay.
And I found out how many copies, because he was making copies at the time, right?
Yep.
And literally, he looks at me, he goes, man, you're 23 years old. This is your first appointment. I'm going to do this deal with you. So I'm like, this is incredible. And the payment was I can't remember, $100 and some odd a month.
Yep.
And it was like I just won the Mega Millions. I'm like, this is the greatest thing. I'm 1 for 1. Like, this is unbelievable. So I got the paperwork. I had to go back and get it re-signed because I screwed it up, but it doesn't matter. So I went, got it, brought it back, brought it to my manager, and that was it. So pretty cool story.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I really never wanted to manage, even though I kind of did. Like I said, when I was at Icon, I kind of mirrored the top rep that was there just to kind of see.
Yep.
And I love helping people out, but I like to do things my way.
Yep.
Do it myself.
Yep.
So that never really, came into play. I love helping, and I did that after Icon, and then we can kind of get into the story about DocuTeam, But yeah, never wanted to really manage at all. Yeah, great question. After a few months at Icon, I saw the people there and how successful some of them were.
Yeah.
And I just said, I never forgot, I told, my wife, or at the time, my girlfriend, I'm like, man, I think I can really do this. I think I'm pretty good at this. There wasn't probably a point that a sale that I got. I just kind of figured it out and kind of liked it. And then luckily, love what I do. I literally love what I do. Yep. I have awesome friends, family members that they work, and I know some of them do not like their job.
Yep.
Just be real. I think, and if I'm not liking what I'm doing, that's not me. I have to love it, and luckily, I got lucky. I got lucky, but it worked out, and it's been the best job ever. That it factor, and I think that's a lot of it is You know how people say, oh, you're born with something. Yeah, you're born with, you can hit a fastball.
Yeah.
You know, you just got great eye-hand coordination, or sports analogy. I just, I think I just luckily knew what to say when the time came. Talking to people, my writing skills aren't great, right? I can send out emails all the time, but verbally having a conversation with you over the years, I've gotten much better of listening.
Yep.
I'm always sometimes maybe talking too much, and over the years in the selling aspect of what we do, you got to listen a little more, and I've definitely done a much better job of that, over the years. So, again, great question. Let's backtrack to back when I first started at Icon. I didn't network like I did back then. Literally, I would knock on doors, cold call, make phone calls, right?
Yep.
And I wasn't, and of course I know a lot more people now than I did when I first moved to Atlanta. I would say after Icon, then I was with a company called DocuTeam.
Yep.
And basically DocuTeam was the former president, CFO, and the VP of sales of Icon that all quit and started up a smaller organization back in late 1997, because I was literally at Icon for 9 months. And they brought me on pretty much as their first employee. Yeah. It was a startup, just like how AOT moved from Indiana to Atlanta. They were here in Atlanta and opened up a smaller dealership, and it was one of those things that when I got there, just talking to people that have been in the business, that's how you're going to get the easiest business is go talk to people that you already know, start conversations, go have breakfast, go have lunch meetings, go to networking events, your country club, right? Stuff like that. And I know I'm very aggressive. I have a type A personality, and that's how I got a lot of my business. And then if you're nice to the people and you do them good, you're going to get more leads, right? But then what I always try to do is reciprocate, right? I want to pass out leads because I would get calls all the time. Jeff, let's go. You can't do that all day, right? Let's go do breakfast. Let's go do lunch. Let's go play golf. Right. And I want to pass out leads just like I get leads, and it just luckily has worked out, and hopefully I've taken that to a level that people appreciate. You know what? It was one of those things. Yeah, at the beginning, like that one machine deal I told you, my first deal. I didn't know what I was doing. I figured it out, and just watching successful people. I'm like, okay, here's a 5 machine deal. Here's a 20. Here's a 50. Here's a 100. I'm like, I don't try to treat that any differently. That's kind of how I've always done it. But it's all going back to relationship, right? And that's the biggest thing for me is if I come and meet you, Phil, and I know you have 400 copiers you're in touch. I'm going to talk to you the same way as someone that has 1 copier. Correct. And, and I've always just used that, the way I sell. And so there really wasn't any specific deal. I just kind of started doing it. I'll never forget, again, going back to when I left Icon after 9 months and they brought me on as kind of their first rep at DocuTeam. Again, it was called Atlanta Coast Fire Protection. They're no longer in business right now, but I'll never forget, I cold called it one day. Just a cold call. Walked in, receptionist came, and I'll speed up because this can go on for a while. The owner of the company was there, just by luck. Guy's never there. Guy was pretty much semi-retired, lived in Florida, was at the office, and he goes, "Hey, young man," and literally I basically sat down with him and we chit-chatted for about 20 minutes, kind of like the first attorney did on my first sale. And he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to see how we can do business." And literally in 30 minutes, the guy gave me a copy of all his contracts. He went into the accounting facility, gave it to me. I sat down. I'm good with numbers. And in 35 minutes, he signed a $100,000 copier deal with me.
No way.
So I'm like, and it was like 5 machines. It was a great deal. And, just one of those things, man. It came down to he liked me. And that's why he did business with me. It had nothing to do that it said DocuTeam. It could have said whatever. He bought from Jeff Kramer. And then ultimately, we grew that account, to a lot more machines over the years. So, a lot of fun stories. It's great. great. Remembering all the great, the great things that happened in the past. You know what? Again, I'm not a technical guy, as you know, and of course, the machines do so much more than they did from when I started in 1997 to now with the scanning and the printing and the faxing and document management solutions and paper cut. It hasn't changed a lot. I would say yes, that part has, but at the end of the day, it's selling, it's building relationships, and that's the kind of the key with it. You know what? Like I said, 51 years old right now. Yeah. This is really all I've ever done. I've been very fortunate. Some people, their whole life is work.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
I mean, you've talked about this with our families and relationships. I got to a point at a really early age, I'd say after a couple years at DocuTeam, mid-20s. And I know a lot of people can't do that. I was making more money than I ever dreamed of.
Sure.
Okay? And I'm like, man, I love it, and I love what I do, but I love my freedom, right?
Yes.
I coached my boys in football, baseball, basketball.
Yep.
Never, head coached them in everything. Never missed a practice, never missed a game. Play a lot of golf, play a lot of sports. Back then it was tennis. Now it's a lot of pickleball.
Yep.
Played flag football, softball, and I always said, yes, family's number one, right? Business is always going to be number two, right? But having the freedom as a salesperson, some people take advantage of it, okay? I take off a lot of time, right? And that's fine. But when I'm off, I'm always working. My head is going nonstop. Wherever I am, I'll see an opportunity. When we're away, I'll talk to someone. Doesn't matter where. At a restaurant, at a bar, at the pool. And there's been so many occasions that I've gotten their business over the years.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of, one of those things.
Yeah.
Great question. I've tried meditate. I've done some meditation stuff that didn't really, that's not me. I kind of just go with the flow.
Yeah.
I don't. When people say, hey, you should have an agenda.
Yep.
And okay, today you're going to do this, and I laugh. And all my friends laugh.
Yeah.
All my friends will laugh at me too. I don't ever have an agenda. It just kind of happens, right?
Yep.
And talking to my wife or my friends or even my mom and dad, that's just the way it's always been. I just kind of wing things, and luckily they work. I've had a bunch of failures. I mean, everyone's failed in life. That's going to happen, but I don't have a set strategy.
Yep.
That's hopefully that answers it. But yeah, there's really not a set strategy or a daily routine that I do. Absolutely. There's been a lot of amazing ones. It doesn't have to, it could be a small deal I got or a big one. This one was a large deal I got, probably, 12, 13 years ago. Okay. In the in the healthcare field, and it was a company here in Atlanta, and I got in and met with the C-level there, and it was probably at the time 10, 15 machines. Okay, and we were having a tough time getting them credit approved. That's the thing, with our industry is you can get a deal, but if they don't have credit, it's nothing. Right. Well, luckily, I was very close with my leasing lady at DocuTeam, and we called certain finance companies, and we got it approved, which is great. And then they got acquired by a much larger organization. And I knew I had one shot. And that's the thing with me. I don't care where they're located. I'll go visit you. It could be in a different state. Doesn't matter. And I'll never forget, she was gone, and I somehow got in touch with the CFO of this new company. And he basically goes, all right, Jeff, we're good. We're in Florida. We're good right now. But we do come to Atlanta quite a bit. I said, give me one chance. Give me one chance. So they did. So him, along with the CIO, came into our DocuTeam facility, and we had a huge presentation. And it went great, right? It went great. And I was in there. It was just me and the two of them and our president at the time at DocuTeam. And we just built a relationship. It was all people. That was it, man. Like I said, I don't talk tons about technology. Of course, I do when I need to, and then I have, my IT guys who come and assist with that. So I'll never forget, they leave and they go, we're heading back to Florida. Let's touch base in a few weeks. We want pricing of X, Y, and Z. So, this is going to be hundreds of machines, probably about 1,000.
Wow.
So we do that, and he calls me. I'll never forget. And he goes, we left you guys, and our intention was just to be nice and come meet with you guys. But you showed us so much value in your energy level. I think we can start a relationship. And long story short, 10, 15, 20 machines became 1,000 in the next year and a half.
Wow.
Pretty cool. And, and again, there's so many of those stories that I have that, it could be a 1 or 5 machine deal that I've done that, hey, we did not think we were going to do this deal. That was not our intention. And then it turns out, but then there's so many deals that we do that you lose. I mean, in our industry, right, if you bat 300 in Major League Baseball, you're a Hall of Famer, right? And if you do that and what we do, it's the same thing here. So, you're going to lose a lot more than you win. And what happens in salespeople, or why there's sometimes not a lot of successful salespeople, they can't take the defeat. I remember the losses a heck of a lot more than I remember the wins.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And, and I can probably write a book about our industry. The good, the bad, the ugly. Everything that you see, right, and what we do. But at the end of the day, people will come to me all the time. Hey, copiers, man, you can sell ice to an Eskimo, right? Well, hopefully I could. I don't know. I just luckily got good at this industry. But there's so many industries out there in sales that we could all do. But one of those things that it just kind of lucked out, I guess. But I guess you make your own luck. Just like anything in life. Wow, a train wreck story. I don't know if it's a train wreck story, but there was one deal, and I get a lot of referrals. Right? I mean, a lot. That's how I probably now get 75% of my business, maybe even more. And it was a referral. So anytime you get I always want to do great for my customers. But, referral, especially, right? Well, we deliver the machines, and it's in this brand new office. And I remember it was a deal we did not even hear in Atlanta. It was actually up in Massachusetts. And our delivery team delivered the devices, and they have all these brand new, unbelievable, gorgeous hardwood floors. And something happened. It was something on the bottom, and literally it was black. It was probably $8,000 to $10,000 worth of damage. So of course we had to take care of that. It is what it is. It happens. The customer calls me. Actually, no, I got a call from my referral person. And not there, they were young. They're like, do you know what happened? I had no idea. And I'm like, what? They go, and they sent me pictures, and I'm like, holy shit. All right, that's pretty much what came out of my mouth. And so I called, and they were really nice, and of course we took care of it. But that's, that I do remember that one. Not a fun time, but like I said, if I really thought more about it, I could probably think of some other ones, but that was on the top of my mind right there when you asked that question.